Welcome to the It's Not That Serious podcast with your host for today, Ravi, and the guest, me.
Which is your name?
Yeah, Anthony. And
Thanks for doing the intro. I
Shut
appreciate it. Oh, sorry for interrupting. Whose podcast is this?
Okay, sorry.
Apparently not mine.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi.
Hurry up.
What are we even talking about? We're talking about contentment,
Okay.
acceptance, relationships, breakups, all things good and growing and learning.
Yeah. It's,
So I'm going to tell you all about his deepest, darkest secrets and traumas.
We're going to use all my deepest, darkest secrets against me. Alright, to
It's
start.
currently midnight.
Yes, it is currently. It's close enough. We rounded up a little bit.
I go to sleep at 8 p.m. and it being past 8 right now, it's past 12 in my head. It's girl math right there.
We do a little bit of girl math, you know. So, to start, to get this podcast, back on track, as you common folk might say. I don't know why I'm talking like this. It's because I'm scared.
Spectator radio.
So I'm scared. To start off, I think...
Why are you laughing?
I don't know how to segue into this.
We didn't really come up with the plan. This is my first episode with the guest, and we kind of were like, we need to record today, and then held it off for the longest time, and then just sat down eating Wetzel's pretzels and petting cats.
Yeah.
And we're like, it's getting really late. I think we should record because we said we were going to.
Alright, so to actually get some content out of this, I think we should get started talking about contentment and how exactly contentment gets involved in how you make your day-to-day decisions when it comes to your friends, family, and your significant others. And significant others, goddamn! Shit.
More than one!
More than one! And,
There's some people out there.
Yeah.
No judgment.
And, no judgment at all. And, how that affects stuff like relationships. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Nothing was... We haven't talked about anything. You agreed to say, yeah, we should talk about it.
Sorry. It's like way past my bedtime. My brain doesn't work at this hour. It's cracking up. I'm swallowing really hard.
It's Not That Serious podcast, folks.
Because it's obviously not that serious.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Let me just think of something. Because this usually just starts when we start talking and then we just agree with each other.
Alright, yeah. I agree.
So let's first define what contentment is. And what I think contentment is just like being accepting with what you already have, not really needing more or desiring more than what you have because you're content, you're happy with what you have. And for me, I think if you feel like you need more, you think you need more because you're lacking something. And that kind of also ties in with like being envious of somebody. You're envious and jealous of that because you feel like you don't deserve it and you can't have it, you don't have it.
Yeah, definitely contentment. It's something that it's neither a peak nor is it exactly a low. Contentment is, as you said, it's accepting and being, as the word has in it, content with what's in your life. And contentment, from face value, if you look at it, it can be seen as just very simple. I'm content to have this in my life. I'm content to have that in my life. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to say that you're content, but to really be content with what you're doing, with who you are as a person, with what you have in a life, it's not just saying like, yeah, I'm good with this. It's sort of a choosing of recognizing what's in front of you, what's around you, what's going to be around you, and sort of having a attitude that you can apply to all of that. Because if you go about your daily life, for example, without contentment, it's always going to be something of, I envy this, or I want this, I want that. It's a constant need of wants and wants and wants. Mm-hmm. And I guess this sort of segues into the idea of happiness, right? And what exactly we value as human beings. Because if we can, all of these things that we're categorizing and we're talking about fall in the realm of desire. what exactly you desire to yourself, and the amount of which that we desire something. I guess if you were to look at it as a graph, right? If you look at the X and Y, how much you desire something, if you really desire something, it's going to be high up on the graph, and then how little you desire something, it's going to be really low, or if you really don't want it, it's going to be in the negatives, right? And depending on how you view the graph, if you're just constantly desiring more and more and more, let's say you have, let's say you got this car that you want, right? It's a really nice car, and it's something that's really high up on the graph. Eventually, you're going to reach that peak. Let's say if you win the lottery or something like that, like this economy. Anyways, but let's say that you do eventually get that car. Now you've reached that point on the graph where the car was. But since you're there now, that's your new frame of reference from where your happiness comes from. Because now that happiness that you were aspiring to, that you were looking forward to, is now what you're at. And now it's going to be sort of like, well, what's next?
Yeah, and in that sense, I feel like, for example, winning the lottery or getting like a new car, with that it's more of materialistic things too. And if you're constantly wanting more materialistic things, then like that's more of an external force rather than an internal thing. So if like you want to be more content, it has to be more within like your internal like thoughts, happiness, views, perceptions of the world. And that isn't to say that like be content with where you're at and not move forward in your goals. Like if you have goals, you want to be ambitious, you want to continue striving towards that and being better, but also appreciating and accepting where you're at. Because there's a difference with being like content and lazy.
Yeah.
Like if you have those goals and you're content at where you're at and then become lazy because you don't want to work towards that goal, that's a different thing, I
guess to kind of go further on that, being content with what you have versus being lazy is the difference between actively choosing and to accept what you have in front of you versus giving in to an acceptance of what you have. So, for example, if you are content and you're making the active decision to be content, you're showing to yourself and you're saying to yourself, this is what I have in front of me, this is what I need, whether it be material objects or who knows, maybe even a relationship. That's something I say, I am content in this relationship. This is of my own choosing. Like I am seeing the value that it holds to me, and even though it has its lows and its highs, or its highs or its lows, it brings a sort of satisfaction to me that provides that baseline of the contentment in my life or something like that. Versus if you're lazy for something, so let's say you're in a situation where you're down on your luck, you don't have money, or you're just stuck in a job that you otherwise don't really like. For some people, it could be difficult to get out of that job. I'm not going to sit here and say, just get a job. But and for a lot of cases, there are opportunities that are around that we could choose to do or choose to seize upon. But it's the laziness and comfort, I guess you could say, like too much comfort.
Yeah.
Could allow you to just say, well, I don't want to, I'm tired. If there's always something like, I'm tired, I don't want to do this, or I don't know, it just doesn't make me feel good, I'll just do it another time. All of those words are, it's an acceptance, but not out of active choosing. It's just sort of giving in. It's
just being really passive and letting your life kind of control you instead of you taking control of your life. And we don't want to give off the message either of being content as in like, oh, if you're in a job that you hate and you're absolutely miserable in, or you're in a relationship where it's like super toxic and this person's really manipulative, but you want to be accepting or content with how they treat you, or your job just being like super horrible. If it's not making you happy for like obvious reasons and logical reasons, then yeah, with that you want to be in a place where you do find contentment and happiness.
Hey, welcome back.
Good evening.
Good evening. Yeah, we just took a quick break. We just took a quick break.
Go to the bathroom real quick.
Yeah. Fought some demons, won some, lost some, but that's how life goes, you know?
What?
Don't worry about it. Anyways, while I was fighting some demons, I thought we should talk. I thought we should talk about
Contentment.
Yeah.
Breakups.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Let's just jump into that.
I guess we can jump into that.
Because we were kind of talking about this yesterday when we were driving from Dana Point to Ontario. And
Yeah.
I feel like literally everybody should go through a breakup because that's like the most uncomfortable pain you'll ever go through.
Mm.
Because you lose a person, and that person that you kind of, at least in that moment of your life, thought was going to be your forever, your present, your future, and then you don't think that'll stop right there. So then having it just like stop, it sucks, but then it forces you to like just become a new and improved person without that person.
Yeah. I recently went through a breakup, and you know a lot about it. I mean, I think you and about two other people. I
was there since the beginning.
Yeah, you and two other people were really there for me. Like when that whole breakup occurred, and it was a very messy and complicated topic. All I'm gonna say is just when it comes to you're talking about with the pain of breakups and all that, and I can definitely attest. When my breakup occurred, a lot happened at that time, and I mean, obviously the relationship ended, and then while that was ending, I was having issues with friends that I had and friend groups, and I lost somebody in my life who was very near and dear to me. I saw them get lowered 6 feet into the grave, and all of this was just on my head while I was contemplating my relationship, my friendships, the people who were once in my life and now are leaving it. And it was honestly one of the most stressful periods of time that I had gone through in a very long time. The pain that I went through that, I definitely learned a lot from it, because from the isolation and from the sadness and, you know, anger that can arise from that, I reflected a ton, and I was forced to be in an uncomfortable situation for a very long, extended period of time, and the change in my mindset afterwards. And I you know, it's very, the way I talk about it now, and it's very,
uplifting and more positive.
more neutral. I see it in a more neutral sense now.
Yeah.
I mean, time has passed.
Just like for you, a lot of stuff happened. So it wasn't just the breakup, it was like losing a friend, just losing a lot of other friends, not due to the same circumstances as that one, but just like drifting apart, being in different classes and all that stuff. I feel like when breakups happen, not only are you losing that person, but you start losing a lot of other people around you. And so a lot of things tend to happen at the same time. And it seems like not just one thing's crashing and falling. A lot of things around you are crashing and falling. And so with that, it's like you're forced to do something about it and force yourself to like move forward, process, and grow from that, because when you're just like sitting in that pain, your body kind of just like kicks into fight or flight mode, and you just come into this mode of trying to get better and improve yourself, so you're no longer just sitting in that.
I think definitely as well, when you break up with somebody, it can provide a test of empathy, because on one hand you're reconciling the positive emotions that you shared with this person, while also reconciling the now of things, right? The negativity that's in your life afterwards, in spite of everything that's happened. And it's very easy to just look at somebody with a very blank slate and say, you know what, they're horrible, I never want to talk with them again. And you know, in some cases, some people are just genuinely horrible. But more often than not, things are not as, you know, black and white as it seems to be. And something like that can enable you to see a person's actions and say, you know, I don't condone what they did, but I understand why they did it. And that could, by making realizations when it comes to that with other people, you can also apply those realizations to other things in your life, apply it to yourself. Breakups, more often than not, the reflection that comes from that and the feelings that arise from that don't often just apply only to the breakup, but it extends to other facets of your daily life, right?
For sure.
It allows you to just see things from a more critical lens, and it might not necessarily be true for every breakup, but if you go out of your way to really process things and analyze things from as objective as you can be, you know, from as objective viewpoint as you can, it can definitely lend you a new, you know, just frame of mind that you can go about your daily life with.
Yeah, for sure. And like what you're saying about being able to see things as they are, like I want to touch on how when you're in a relationship, you have those rose tinted glasses on. So like a lot of behavior that a person can be doing or the way they can be treating you is kind of blinded out because you view them in a certain way. Like you like them, so you're trying to see all the good in them. And then once you break up with them, you kind of go through the 5 stages of grief. So at some points you hate them, some points you really miss them. And the times you hate them, you like really see the negative for like with anger and being more negative than it actually was. But then once you actually finish the 5 stages of grief and you just accept everything as it was, then you're able to look at things and, like you said, just be like, oh yeah, I can see why they did that. That makes sense. And I can see why I did what I did. And that isn't to justify all the actions if it wasn't super rational. It does make sense because you both feel so strongly for each other. So when you have those emotions and care about that person so much, the other emotions, negative and bad, are all that much more amplified.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. When you've done wrong in a relationship, it takes a while because it definitely takes reflection and reconciliation of how do you reconcile stuff that you've done wrong with yourself as you are now, right? When you've pushed somebody to feel that much anger and hate towards you, it's something that it's a painful feeling. It's something that, you know, you go about your daily life and it feels like there's a fist around your heart. You think to yourself, how could I have done that? Why did I do this? And it's all these little things that trickle into your mind, and in the moment it's painful, but over time, pain and being at your lowest, it serves as a catalyst for growth. Because when you're at your lowest and you're at a period in your life where you feel like you can't go any lower, it gives you the opportunity to look back up and say, well, I just, you know, let's start from scratch. Let's move somewhere. And when you're in that scenario, right, when you're in that moment and you're feeling all those things, it's the most daunting theme it may seem, but making that active effort to just keep moving forward, even if it's just one step at a time, one step a day, whatever you got to do, all those steps will add up eventually. And in your own mind, whether it takes, you know, several weeks to months to day or to years, maybe, who knows, it's something that will help you reconcile things that may have happened, while also moving forward to be a better person. It's not the easiest thing to do, and it certainly requires you to be as objective as you can with yourself and to be as honest about yourself, even with yourself, being firm and calling out your own bullshit while also remaining gentle to yourself, because that's the because pushing yourself and making yourself feel bad, it won't benefit you at all. It'll just cause you to sink even lower.
So you're at that low point, and then once you get better and you've grown and you've healed from being at that low point, you're able to look back at that and realize how far you've come. And it's such an accomplishing feeling, and you feel a lot more self-appreciation and gratitude, because it's like, that was a really hard time and I got out of that. Sometimes people are fortunate enough to have a really great support system, and with those who don't have the support system at the time and are able to get themselves out of that, it just builds more sense of trust within yourself, and just knowing that, like, wow, I really had my back at that time. If I ever am back in that situation, or if I'm ever back in a point where I don't think I can go any lower, you just can look back at that and be like, no, I did that. I can pull myself out of hard times, and I will do it again.
I mean, the intense emotions like that, pain and hurt, despair and anger, guilt, shame, all of these are powerful motivators in our life, and how you manage it, because everybody's going to feel those emotions. That's just part of the human condition, right? To feel all those emotions. But how you go across it and how you manage it will dictate how the growth comes. There is a quote that a friend of mine said to me that I quite like, and she said, in life we don't always get to choose where growth comes from. And when it comes to growth, no matter from where it comes from, you have to take it as it is and utilize it and reframe it to the best of your ability and in the healthiest way that you can. But
definitely acknowledging the pain too.
Yeah.
So when feeling the pain, instead of just being like, oh, I gotta move forward from this and kind of just like avoid it and pretend it doesn't exist, like, that's not how you grow. In the first step to anything is awareness and acceptance. So you have to be aware of what you're feeling, be aware of what you're thinking, and kind of just allow it to happen. Because if something really like traumatizing or hurtful happens, you have to allow the body to just feel and recognize that something really hurtful has happened, something really damaging has happened. And once you accept it and you're aware of it, and then you just go through the emotions, then you can kind of see how your life and your mindset starts like shifting. Because at least for me, like with my very, very first breakup, which was after high school, I didn't know how to deal with a breakup. So for me, I was trying to heal with filling up that void. It's like I had a void that was now empty because I had my first boyfriend. I never thought I would feel like this certain connection. And once that was lost, I was like, oh, I just need to bring that connection back. So I was just like seeking that feeling of like comfort and intimacy through like anyone who was just willing to give me some sort of attention. Like a guy looks my way, breathes in my direction, I'm like, he wants me, like we're gonna make this happen. But then after coming out of my second breakup with my second boyfriend, that one was around COVID time. So at that, I had to force myself to sit with those emotions and thoughts. Like I had no other choice but to just deal with the pain. And that's where I was able to heal and grow a lot faster than the first breakup. That breakup took me like a whole year to fully recover from it. But then with the second one, it just took a few months where I was like, okay, I feel okay. I feel a lot better.
But in general, with any lesson that goes in your life, you want to have a positive, outcome from it, and you want to benefit from it. You don't want to just make mistakes and then just continue to make the same mistakes. Yeah. Because then it would just make everything in vain.
It would just make the pattern repeat over and over again with the mistakes and the lessons that you make and learn from each relationship and friendship. You take it into the next one. It's always a stepping stone.
It'll only increase the bitterness in your life. It's almost a sort of self-positivity gone wrong. Everybody's at fault, and it's not me. I always have this little exception that magically makes me not the bad guy in the situation. No, we are bad guys in people's lives.
You have to take accountability.
Yeah. We are definitely bad guys in people's lives. And there are other people who are bad guys in our lives too. The thing about life is everybody's a bad guy. There's no one person out there who's like a literal Jesus who's never done anything wrong in their life. Think of the most kind person you know. That dude's probably like, I don't know, flipped off a baby or something. Like, we all have something in our life that we've done that we were in the wrong for, and take up accountability for that and recognize that. Do it for yourself. Learn from the mistakes that you've made, but be gentle with yourself. Be firm, but also be gentle with yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's advice you give me too, with being firm and being gentle with yourself, because it's like you don't want to give yourself too much leeway to where you're just being super nice and stepping on other people's toes. Being too nice on yourself and then stepping on other people's toes.
Yeah.
Also being firm, so you have that accountability. You have responsibility, and just being able to just recognize your actions and thoughts and all that stuff.
People come and go in our lives, and that's okay. The experiences that we shared together, we will always remember, both the good and the bad. When people leave your life, that also means that there's growth and there's opportunity for you to meet even more people and to learn lessons from them.
Yeah.
And whether you love them as friends, you love them as family, you love them as a significant other, it's better to have loved them in whichever way that you pick than to have never have loved at all. It's better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all.
I always think too, like, whenever you lose people in your life, whenever friends no longer are in your life for whatever reason, it always just makes room for more people to come in. You always lose things for better things to come in. And I know, like, not everyone believes this or is spiritual like this, but at least for me, I think we meet our soulmates for different parts of our lives. So not like, soulmate, like my one person that is meant for me that I'm going to marry and that's my soulmate. I mean, you meet certain people at certain points of your life for specific reasons. So you have like the soulmates that stay with you for long-term parts of your life, and then soulmates for just short periods of your life, and you meet them in that certain time frame for them to teach you and help you grow with what you need. Like, they give you the resources for that time in your life, and once they've served their purpose, that's why they're no longer in your life. And from whatever interaction or relationship you had with that person, it was for a specific reason. And so after that's done and you've learned what you needed to from them, then someone else gets introduced into your life. It's kind of like chapters. I like seen or like heard people talk about this, where it's kind of like different chapters in your book, or like if your life was a Netflix show, each person is like a different season.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a quote from a book I like. It's called Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami. And the quote is, once the storm is over, you won't remember how you made it through, how you managed to survive. You won't even be really sure whether the storm is over. But one thing is certain, when you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person who walked in. That's what this storm's all about. And in a poetic sense, every person's life is that storm, and no one really knows what it's all about. And when you're within that storm, you go through all these different experiences and you meet all these different people, right? They're all part of that storm. And once you go through those experiences and once you've met all those people, you take all the experiences and lessons that you've learned from that, you can really get a sense of what your life is and what your life is about, what your purpose is and what guides you. And in that sense, everybody that you meet, from the smallest interaction, like talking to somebody you met at the gym or a loved one that you've known for years, they all play a part of that storm. And once that storm is over, you'll really be able to see the grand picture and admire it for what it is. Yeah.
Very beautiful. Very, very beautiful. Okay. we'll see how it looks post-production.
Yeah. Actually, this podcast is a ruse. This is a confession. On April 25th, 1994, I was driving.
None of us were born yet.
I was driving down a Texas road, and there was 2 children there, and I didn't see them. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to the people involved. I didn't know. And what? I was driving my 2015 Dodge Ram.
In 19. This makes no sense. So when it comes to contentment, just stop wanting more things.
You know what? Just stop wanting things. What's the point?
What is the point of life?
What's the point of life?
Like, if you think about it, we subscribe to life without choosing.
Yeah, we're brought into
Why
this.
do you think we were crying when we were
Yeah.
born? Because we didn't want to be here. Do you think that we were born into a really negative, foul, hard world to kind of just flip it upside down, find hope, be positive, live, laugh, love?
I think we're born into a gaslight gatekeep girl boss. Really.
I was actually trying to get
Oh,
into
sorry.
conspiracy theories.
Sorry.
But like think about it. Okay, let's go with the shower thoughts right now.
Okay,
Like, why do you think we're crying when we first come out?
bro. Like,
I've heard so many different conspiracy theories on
imagine coming head first out of a fucking pussy, you cry too.
that. And it's like this
Yeah.
it's like
Okay, you know what? To close this off, let me give one final message. You ever watch High School Musical? Well, I haven't. But there's a scene in High School Musical. I know absolutely nothing about High School Musical.
how does that tie in with anything? Oh, honestly, we're just gonna close this out now.
Throw some car
it's
batteries.
fucking nonsense.
Throw some car batteries into the ocean. Go glug glug.
Okay, honestly, at this point, I'm cutting out so much from this episode that I don't know where we really left off. But we should have recorded this a lot earlier when our brains were more functioning and the brain cells were actually doing what they're supposed to. But right now, we're splitting a brain cell. Anyway, so thanks for hanging out with us. I really don't know if I'm going to end up posting this. If I did, thank you for watching or listening and hanging out with us. And remember that life is not that serious. Life's not serious. What's my name?
It's not that serious. Why do I know the name of the podcast and you don't?
And remember that life's not that serious.
Bye!